Hello, everybody. Welcome to our final 12 Days of the Comic Source episode for Christmas 2025, 12 Days of the Comic Source. This is going to be two parts because it's so long. So I'll release the first part on Christmas Eve. Second part will be released on Christmas Day. But just like we did last year, Rocky and I decided that we wanted to do like a comic talk episode, just catch up, look back on the year, talk about things that happened, what we're looking forward to maybe in 2026. And of course, we got our buddy Steve to join as well. He joined us in San Diego Comic-Con. I'm sure you guys heard the crazy shenanigans that went on there, and it was such a great time. And Steve's very busy, and he doesn't get a chance to come on anywhere near as often as Rocky and I would like him to, actually. But he just fits right in with the aesthetic. So, guys, thanks for taking the time. Let's start off by talking a little sort of December aesthetic. We had our holiday party here. You guys were both invited. Neither one of you showed up. Hey, well, I get it. You're thousands of miles away. I'm sure you wish you could have.
Yeah.
But it was a fantastic time. Drinks were had by all. The big drink this year, the most popular by far, was the Campfire Mule, which was maple smoked bourbon.
Ooh. Wow.
Nice. With ginger beer, and it was garnished with a toasted marshmallow. That was like far and away the most popular. Like made 10 times as many of those as anything else.
Wow.
But it wasn't particularly cold, and we're hovering around 80 degrees this week and next week for Christmas. So you guys are up there in the Great White North. Is it feeling more like Christmas up there? You guys had some cold weather. You had any snow yet?
Oh boy.
It's been something else.
Yeah. Steve just showed me a video of his front of his house. We had such a huge storm, 34 below windshield factor, a huge windstorm. He had a carport basically smashed in front of his house, took out his, actually chopped off one of his sprinkler heads, if you can believe that. Yeah, he showed me the video. It's crazy.
Was nuts.
Yeah.
So how many
Like
feet
that.
of snow have you guys gotten already?
Well, it's melted now. It's actually
Yeah,
melted. In the last week, it's melted. This is Alberta, and to say the cliche, if you don't like the weather, you just wait 5 minutes, right? This is Alberta, and in the winter, it's absolutely insane. Usually, the Farmer's Almanac accurately predicts our weather. Unfortunately, this is the last year, or no, 2026 will be the last year that the Farmer's Almanac is published. I know nobody cares about that information, but from a family of farmers, I got to tell you, it's like devastating.
That's great. Are they going to like just do it online now, or they're just not
I
going to
think
do
so.
it?
Yeah,
At
it's all digital now.
Just digital, yeah.
Okay.
Print.
Well, at least they're continuing to make it. It's just digital, but yeah, very very different sort of feel. So, man, I don't even know where to start. It's been so long since we've had a chance to get together. I kept threatening to do a New York Comic Con wrap up episode, which I never did. So maybe we'll start there. We have some other topics that we want to cover as well, but let's start with New York Comic Con. I stupidly, and you guys know how to prepare for big conventions, or maybe more accurately, how not to prepare, how we don't prepare, like maybe as well as we should. And I've done this before, and for whatever reason, I was not really that excited to go to New York Comic Con. I had obligations. I said I was going to go. Then everything happened with my wife's car, and I couldn't really afford to go. And then people generously donated, and I want to thank everybody that did. It was above and beyond. You guys didn't have to do that. It was absolutely amazing. Really helped out. Plus the fact that I had to be there the 5 days following New York Comic Con for work, and so that helped to cover some of the expenses as well, like my flight was covered and what have you. So it was awesome. But I think because I wasn't really that excited to go, but then the fact that I turned it a work trip, I definitely was obligated and had to go. And so I say all that to say I got about 2 hours of sleep probably a combined less than 4 hours of sleep in the 2 days before I had to go, fly out there. So I did get a little bit of sleep on the plane, but I can't really sleep on planes because I'm such a light sleeper. But I was so exhausted, I did get a little bit of shut-eye. But by the time I got there, and for some reason they didn't mail the press passes out this year. So I get there, I meet Trevor at the hotel, the guy I'm staying with, as you guys know, we've been on the show before. Trevor Fernandez-Lenkowitz, Dark Knight Nation, as he used to go by when he used to review comics and what have you. But he wasn't even at the hotel. He'd gone out to get coffee, so I had to wait. Then he gets there, I drop my stuff off in the room, and we were about a 20-minute walk from the Javits Center, maybe 25 minutes. And I needed to go over there and get my badge, because I certainly didn't want to go be in line to pick up my badge Even though it's a different will call line for press. But I'm not going to go stand in line when everybody else is standing in line to get their, anybody that didn't get it mailed on Thursday morning. And thank God, because when I got there Thursday morning, like the line to pick up the badges was wrapped around the block. And these are big New York City blocks. So it was crazy. So anyway, I walked over there to get my badge. Then the plan was to come back to the hotel, go to one of my restaurants that was, we were only half a mile away from my restaurant on Park Avenue. So we're going to go there and have a drink and appetizers and then go to Chinatown and have dumplings. So, as always happens, I walk over to the convention center, and I got my badge. There was no line, so that was great. But then I wanted to get a couple of shots for the social media, just a couple shots of the empty. It was completely empty. Other than vendor, lobby's empty, but vendors are in there, exhibitors are setting up and whatever, and there's some press people in there. And whatever. And so I wanted to get some shots. So I was walking around a little bit, and I kept running into people I knew. And everybody wants to stop and talk, right? So, it should have taken me half an hour, 45 minutes maybe. And I was there, by the time I got back to the hotel, I'd been gone almost 2 hours. So I'm like, okay, so we had a reservation.
Sounds about right.
What's that?
I said, sounds about right. That's
Yeah. Everybody wants to.
There's no such thing as a short walk in San Diego.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't necessarily the walk. It was more you run into people that you haven't seen, and they want to catch up, and you don't want to be rude or whatever. So anyway, we had a reservation at my restaurant for the appetizers, and it was and the drinks, and it was supposed to be at the bar, but they didn't have any availability at the bar, so they went ahead and just sat us at a table. So then we just decided, well, let's just have dinner here instead of going over to Chinatown, and then we were waiting for our third guy that was sharing the hotel room. So he showed up or whatever. So we ended up getting drinks there and eating there. And I was pretty tired or whatever. And then Trevor wanted to get some sleep because he was going to call it a night. I was supposed to go meet Dinesh and all those guys from Bad Idea. The Uber driver took us completely in the wrong direction. We realized it like halfway. So wasted $30 on an Uber going the wrong direction. We got out. We just walked to where the bar was. By the time we got there, they were doing last call. So then we just went to a bar right down the street from the hotel, had another drink, and then called it a pretty early night, comparatively speaking. And got some sleep. And the next day, Thursday, first day of the convention, did some interviews I had to do, did a little bit of shopping, did a panel. I think the Bad Idea panel was on the first day or whatever. And then that night, Thursday night, was this industry mixer where if you were press or you were professional, you could be there networking or whatever. And so that's what we planned on doing. So we got, and that was from 7 to 9. The show floor closed at 7. So we went over there at 7, and we never even made it around the room like normally you would, because Trevor found some people he knew like right at the entrance and just glommed onto them. I was exhausted. I was so tired. I went and sat down because I was like, I'm going to fall over. Because at one point last year, I did fall over. Like after having way too many drinks and not enough sleep on Saturday night, I like fell over in the street. So I didn't want a repeat of that. So we left there a little before 9. And I'm like, I'm going back to the hotel. And they're like, no, you got to go out. It's the first night, New York Comic Con. And I'm like, guys, I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm going to fall over in the street again. I'm going back to they're like, I said, at least for a couple hours, I got to get some sleep. I can't function. I can't see straight. I was like, I'll text you or call you at midnight. And they're like, just come. It's going to be an early night. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be smart, and I'm going back. So I went back, got there about 10, got a couple hours sleep. I set an alarm. I woke up at midnight. I texted him, no reply. I tried to call him, no answer. I'm like, whatever. I went back to sleep. But I'm still on West Coast time. I'm always a night owl, as you guys know. So I ended up waking up at like 2:30. They still weren't back. I'm like, oh yeah, early night, huh? 2:30. They're still not back. And so I started reading for some interviews I had the following day. There was some stuff that I hadn't read yet. So I'm reading it. They come back. They saunter in the room at like 4:30. And I was like, early night, huh? And they're like, yeah, well, it's only 2. I'm like, it's 4:30. And Trevor's like, what? Look at like, sure enough. So thank God that I didn't go. One of the guys they were with, it was his first time in New York. He was from Scotland, I think. So they did the whole Times Square thing and touristy stuff. I was like, oh, thank God I didn't go. So that was the first night. And so I tried to get some sleep, but still, the sleep started to come by, crowded hotel room, whatever. So I go Friday to the show. I do the interviews I have to do and everything. And I was planning on having dinner on Friday night at Park Avenue again, but I was going with Jeremy Adams, and V. Ken Marion. They're the creative team on Green Lantern. And when I asked V. Ken, he's like, "Oh, can I bring my buddy that I'm doing my Kickstarter with, Soul Striker?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." The writer, whatever. So that made 4 of us, and that's like the party size that my restaurant will take a reservation for. That's the largest size. Usually, don't really have tables that accommodate more than that. So I'm live tweeting the Batman panel on Friday, and Jeremy texts me, and I won't name the creator, but he says, "Hey, so and so wants to come to dinner with us tonight as well," because he asked what I was doing and we wanted to hang out, whatever. And I know this creator as well, and I've tried to have meals with this creator before, and it never works out. Like last time I tried to meet with him, he was like flying out of town to go on an anniversary trip with his wife or whatever. Last time I was heading to LA. So I was like, yeah, I want him to come, but we already have 4 people. I don't know. And Jeremy's like, you can make it happen. Come on. So I text the general manager, asked for a favor, and he says, yeah, sure, no problem. So we go, and then I went and told Jeremy about it, but I kind of played it off like I wasn't able to do it, but then I told him I was, so whatever. So we went, we had dinner. It was a really, really good time. I got a chance to get to know that creator even a little better. And it was a lot of fun. So, after that, we went to the Tiny Onion industry party, which was fine. But our third person that was sharing the room with us, he was in a wedding on Saturday, so he had to leave late Friday to go do the rehearsal, whatever. He was officiating the wedding, and so
Tiny Onion being
James Tynion,
right?
Yeah. So that was when I met Tate Bromball, which I talked about on the podcast.
Right.
Talked about Green Lantern Dark, and didn't talk to him about any Batgirl, but yeah, got to meet him, and there was a bunch of other people there that I knew, whatever. So that was fun. So anyway, our third guy, Tyson, he was supposed to be taking an Uber to the train to go back to Connecticut, and he falls asleep in the Uber. The Uber goes to New Jersey instead of going. It went like the wrong way or whatever. His wife is blowing up Trevor's phone. She's panicking. Where is he? Has he been kidnapped? Whatever. So it was like we didn't get any sleep because she kept blowing up the phone and Trevor was like, "Oh, should I go to Grand Central Station and look for him?" I'm like, "You're not going to find him." His phone was dead. It was a debacle. It was like a mess. So again, we didn't get as much sleep as we probably should have. So I didn't have much to do Saturday. Obligations, because it's so busy on Saturday. I try not to, and I didn't even take my tripod and my camera to record interviews. But then one of the press PR people was like, "Oh, I had a cancellation. Can you fill in whatever?" So I was like, "Okay." So I carry around like a little tiny tripod, like a 4-inch tripod that hooks up to my phone. So I just recorded on my phone and did it that way. So made it work. But then we didn't necessarily have anything to do Saturday night other than the Marvel party. The Marvel party is always at the same place, McHale's 2-story bar, and we were planning on going to that. We don't get there too early because I think it starts at like 8, but you can only get upstairs if you're like an active Marvel creator. It goes 8 to midnight, and then after midnight, then you can mingle, whatever. So we got invited to go to this gallery showing for Frank Cho, which was really great. Like all those Catwoman variant covers that you're seeing right now, they were all displayed. Like the original art was all being displayed or whatever. And I heard a guy buy one. It was $40,000.
Oh.
The gallery owner makes 10%, so he was like, over the moon, $4,000, whatever. So that was cool. I hung out with Daniel Warren Johnson was there, Liam Sharp was there, Dinesh and that whole crew was there, and it was pretty warm, even though it was kind of pretty cold in New York and rainy a lot of the convention. It was warm in that gallery because there's so many people there. So we were kind of hanging out front. There was a hot dog cart out front, and they were just selling beer and wine, or not. They were just serving beer and wine, not selling, because it was an open bar. But I'm not really into beer and wine, whatever. So, and Trevor and I had stopped and gotten those dumplings on the way there because we didn't get to get them the day before. So we were trying to figure out what we're going to do, me and Trevor. And Dinesh and all those guys were talking about going to a Mexican restaurant and margaritas or whatever. And I was like, margaritas does sound kind of good, but we'd already eaten. And they didn't. We were hanging out with them, but they didn't like say, "Hey, you guys coming?" or whatever. So we didn't want to assume. So they started walking to dinner, and we were like, "All right, we'll catch up with you guys later. Hopefully we can meet up later." They're like, "Oh, you're not coming to dinner?" And I was like, "Well, we didn't want to assume." And I had texted another press buddy who was at a party, and we thought maybe we'd go meet up with him. So we kind of went our separate ways and hoped to meet up with them later. And in the meantime, I had texted another one of my buddies that lives in New Jersey. He was a huge Bad Idea guy as well, to see what he was up to. And he was at the Roosevelt's party. Are you guys familiar with Roosevelt's? You know, the shirts?
Yeah, the shirts, yeah. I got a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. So they were having their Facebook Insiders party. And so my buddy Paul's like, hey, come to the Roosevelt's party. It's open bar. And I'm like, well, I'm not a member of the group. They're like, no, they're not checking names. Just when you get to the door, just tell them you're here for the Roosevelt's Facebook Insider party. I was like, all right, we'll try it. Because it was a lot closer than where my other press buddy was. So he had sent us a picture of where it was and Google Maps or whatever. So we went over there, and it took us a little bit to find it. And then we find it because there's these other guys. They were blocking the entrance, so there's like a velvet rope, and they were trying to get in. And the doorman kept asking, well, what company are you with? And they were like, well, we're just here for the party. We just want, and they're like, and they didn't know. So he's like, you guys got to go into the regular bar. So I'm like, I don't know, we're going to get in. This guy, you could tell that the doorman was kind of annoyed. So I walked up to him and I'm like, yeah, we're here for the party. He goes, what company is it? I was like, oh, Facebook Insiders. He's like, here you go. And he like parts the velvet rope, angels sing, whatever, we go down. It was a great party, like open bar. And there was a band that was playing like late 90s, early 2000s, like rock, like, so everybody's, grooving out. It was, the only bad thing about it was just loud. So, it was kind of hard to talk because it was so loud. But here it is, Saturday night. I didn't go crazy on Wednesday. I didn't go crazy Thursday or Friday. So Saturday night, I told Trevor, I was like, this is the night I'm going to cut loose. I'm going to drink tonight. We're going to have some fun. So I went and I had got a couple of vodka sodas, and I'm not feeling anything, like nothing after 2 vodka sodas. So, I had made this decision, and we're going to the Marvel party after this. And my buddy that invited us to the Roosevelt's party, Paul, he's going to come with us too. So I decided to switch from drinking vodka sodas on the rocks to just silver tequila on the rocks. No mixer. Steve almost spits out his water, right? And I don't hardly drink anymore, right? So I drink 2 of those, and I'm feeling it, feeling a little warm and fuzzy, but I still don't feel drunk. So that party kind of winds down. They stop serving at like 11:30, something like that. We're going to head over to I guess they stopped serving at 10:30. And so we left about 11, took the subway over to the Marvel party. So during that subway ride, I go from being slightly inebriated to being completely drunk. Like I'm hammered. And we get to McHale's. And the way McHale's is you walk in, and if you take a couple steps down to the right, it's kind of sunken, and that's the downstairs bar. If you turn left right when you walk in the door, you go up like 2 steps, and there's a little landing, and then you make a right and go up along the wall up to the bar upstairs. So I don't know what happened to Paul and Trevor. I didn't see him again for the rest of the night, because as soon as we walked in, I turned left, went to the landing. There was a guy there checking names for people at the Marvel party, because again, only current Marvel creators were allowed. So I beeline to him, and I gave him, I won't say who it is, but I gave him the name of a creator. I just walked right up and I said, I'm so and so, and he looked at me and he goes, no, you're not. And I said, without missing a beat, I said, yeah, I am. Pull up a picture and look. And he says, oh, I'm sorry, sir. Hold out your hand. I hold out my hand. He puts a bracelet on me, and I thought the bracelet was to get upstairs, but it turns out the bracelet was you could get free drinks. And I went right upstairs. Just walked right upstairs. Now, I had no idea if this creator was there already or not. I have no idea why I picked this particular creator's name. Like, I just said I was him, and I went upstairs. And as soon as I walked upstairs, it was like, Jace! And I saw, tons of people I knew.
You do kind of look like Grant Morrison with glasses.
Yeah, right? So, I'm talking to Alberto Albuquerque. I'm talking to, God, there's just, everybody was up there. And it wasn't that, it was like 11:40 when I went up there. And again, you stop separating at midnight or whatever. I didn't get anything else to drink while I was there. I had already drank enough for that night. But I'm just talking to people, whatever, and then a little while later, I get a tap on the shoulder, and I turn around, and it's that guy that was taking the names. And he's got his phone in his hand with the picture of the creator that I said I was on his phone, and he goes, that's not you. And I said, no, it's not. And he was pissed. And he's like, why would you do that? And I was like, I'm sorry. I just wanted to come up here and talk to my friends. He's like, you could have got me fired. I'm like, I'm sorry. Not something I'd normally do. Do you want me to leave? How can I make this right? And I didn't know it was already after midnight. I was too.
That was the second time you lied to him.
Yeah, too hammered to even know what time it was. And he's like, no, he couldn't have kicked me out. He would have had to get somebody from the bar to kick me out because it was already after midnight, so it wasn't separate anymore. But he's like, no, take the wristband off. And he wanted me to take the wristband off because he didn't want me drinking for free. So I hold my hand out so he can take the wristband off, and he tries to take it off, and he can't, and that makes him even more frustrated. And he's like, you take it off. I take it off. I give it to him. I hung out there probably for like another hour or so just talking to people. It was so crowded. It was like really hard to move around or whatever. And then I just went downstairs and around the corner and got a couple slices of pizza. At this point, I have no idea where Paul or Trevor are. I call Trevor. He answers. And I'm like, I need to go back to the room. Like, I'm done, man. And I don't even know what time it was. Probably around 2. And he's like, just call an Uber and give him the address. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So that's what I did. But like completely, like just gaslit the guy and crashed the Marvel party. And that creator was there at the show. And I saw him the next day. And I made a point to go seek him out and be like, dude, I got to tell you a story. Here's what happened. And he kind of got a kick out of it. And I told him, I was like, I had no idea if you were, like, you could have been there for all I know. Or the guy could have just been like, no, you're not him. And I said, yeah, pull up a picture. And he could have pulled up the picture then or been like, I don't need to pull up a picture. You're not him. And I would have walked away.
I got to tell you, though, just for what it's worth, at the risk of sounding paternal, I'm proud of you.
So anyway, the guy that, the creator that it was, he got a kick out of it, and he tells me, he's like, we need to take a picture and do like the Spider-Man meme, where the two Spider-Mans are pointing at each other. He's like, we need to take a picture like that. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, and I'll send it to that guy. And I'm like, no, like, I don't want the guy to hate me even more. But yeah, and he told me, he goes, I very nearly was at that party, but at the last minute, my daughter called, and I was on the phone with her for a while, and it was kind of late, and I didn't feel like going. So, yeah, like totally, like, yeah. So anyway, I went back to the room. I slept. I was so hammered. Like I was supposed to do an interview the next morning at 10. I woke up at like 9. I called the guy's agent, and I moved it back to 1 because I knew I wouldn't make it in time. But Trevor wasn't there when I went to sleep, and then when I woke up and I started drinking a bunch of water and taking Advil and everything, and that was at like 7:45 a.m. and he still wasn't there. I was like, did he even come back? Like, what happened? Then he finally got back around 11, maybe 10 a.m. and he reminded me that he's like, no, I came and you were dead. You were passed out, but he had to leave. He left at like 7:30 in the morning because he had to go to the Scott Snyder breakfast. So he was super tired. He only got like 2 hours of sleep because he ended up like going all over the place in New York. So he was super tired. So we were checking out that day, and we were going across the river. He had a hotel in Jersey City, and I had one in Bergen County for my day job. So the plan was, halfway through the day on Sunday, I got to start expensing everything for my day job. So the plan was, we'll leave our bags downstairs. They had in our hotel, they had a spot where you could leave your bags for the day. We'll go to the con. We'll leave the con. We'll come back. We'll get our bags. We'll get an Uber. We'll go to Trevor's hotel because it's closer, drop our bags off, and then we're supposed to come back in the city and meet some people for dinner. And he goes, okay, I love that plan, but when we get to the our plan was to leave the show no later than 4:30, so we'd be back to our hotel by 5, be dropping the bags off at his hotel at 6. And he's like, what if we get to my hotel around 6 and I sleep for a couple hours because I only got 2 hours of sleep. And then we come back into the city at 8 and meet up for dinner with people, whatever. I was like, sure, no problem. That works fine. So that was the plan. But he was so tired, so we got to it all worked. We got to the hotel by 6. We got to the room. He went to sleep. I was watching football. His alarm went off at 8, like as planned, and he snoozed it till 8:15. And it went off at 8:15, and he snoozed it till 8:30. And it went off at 8:30, and he changed it to 9. And it went off at 9, and he wakes up again, and he's like, do you mind if we just DoorDash some food? I'm so tired. I don't want to go back into the city. And I was like, no, I'll just go it's fine if you don't want to go back into the city, but I'm not going to sit in your hotel room when I have all my stuff I need to schlep all the way over to my hotel somewhere else in New Jersey and get settled for the night as well. So that's what I was like, hey, see you later. Great weekend, whatever. And I ordered an Uber and I left and went to my hotel. In the meantime, I'm texting the people we were supposed to meet, trying to find out what's going on. By the time I get to my hotel and get settled, it's like 10:30. They get back to me and they're like, yeah, we just finished dinner. We're about to go out for drinks. Come and join us. And I'm like, man, it's 10:30 at night. By the time I get into the city, it's going to be almost 11:30 probably, and we'll be out till 3 or 4. And then I got to come back across the river, get some sleep, and then go to my day job the next day where I'm working overnight. Starting at like 11 p.m. and working overnight. So like I'll be dead tired. So I didn't do it. Like it only took me 50 plus years to be an adult and not do stupid stuff like that. Because in my 30s, even in my 40s, I'd be like, sure, I'll sleep later. But maybe some remnants of all the tequila. But I didn't, and it's a good thing I didn't, because it work that week. The day job was arduous. Things kept going wrong through no fault of our own. But it'd been a long time since we'd been in that restaurant, so there was a lot of things that were not in the shape that they should be, and it just took a long time. But yeah, that was the New York Comic Con. So remember how I was telling you guys we always kind of name conventions, like you give it a name. Like San Diego 2025 for me will always be the convention. I'll always remember it and refer to it as the convention, the San Diego that I had to share the room with the smelly guy. And we'll all remember it that way. New York Comic Con 2025 will always be the time that I crashed the Marvel party by impersonating another Marvel creator.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I just have to take issue with one thing that you said. I have a hard time believing you were drunk, for the simple reason that you remembered all of that.
Yeah,
you remember a lot of details.
I'm not
the small details that you remember in regaling us with that story is quite astonishing, given the level of intoxication that you purported to be in. So I'm very impressed.
It's funny you mentioned being so. Yeah, I mentioned going to get pizza. I went up there, saw a bunch of people, whatever, and then at some point I had to go to the bathroom really bad, and so I went to the restroom. And while I was in the restroom, I took my glasses off for some reason. And then I came out, I said bye to some people, I went and got that pizza, and while I'm eating pizza, that was when I went to call Trevor, because I decided I needed to go back to the hotel room, and I couldn't see anything on my phone, because that was when I realized I didn't have my glasses on. And I went back to the bar, and thank God somebody found them in the restroom and gave them to the bartender, and I was able to retrieve them. But yeah, I almost was stuck in New York, wouldn't have been able to see. I would have had to go to like Lens Crafters 1 hour eyeglasses or something and get new glasses. But yeah, no, I was drunk, dude. I was more drunk that night, that Saturday night, than any of the nights in San Diego when we were there. So,
Wow.
but I sent you a picture though, Rocky, didn't I? When we were at that Roosevelt's party, remember me and Trevor sent you the picture where we were flipping you off?
Yes, you did. Yes, you flipped me the bird,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. Yes, you did. Yes.
So yeah, and I know you've been to New York, right? When's the last time you were at New York Comic Con?
Well, it was 2019, right before the pandemic hit. So I had a fantastic time in New York too. I did 2 full YouTube videos on it, so I won't regale you with stories. But let's just say I had a really good time, and the highlights are on my YouTube channel, Comic Boom, if people are so inclined. But it's an awesome time. I mean, it was my first time to New York. And just like first time in San Diego this year, and certainly San Diego was certainly my recollection. It's funny. A really quick anecdote with San Diego 2025 this year for me. I have told this story to friends and family, and the one story that it's interesting that I found myself telling more and more, and that I get asked more questions on, is the fedora story. Where Dinesh, I tell the story because I'm a little bit egocentric when I tell the story, of course, which is my prerogative, because I'm telling it from my point of view. And of course, I talked up the fact that I wore a fedora, and I did wear my fashion sense. I did wear clothes that I would not necessarily normally wear in my hometown of Medicine Hat, Alberta. And anyways, I got quite the kick that night when I was talking about the fedora, and we got talking about it, and And then I was trying to get Dinesh to wear a fedora, and then you, or was it Dinesh that ordered?
I overnighted from Amazon.
From Amazon,
yeah.
and like 4 hours later, Amazon delivers at the high cost of $22 American. You got 6 fedoras delivered to the hotel.
Yeah, but did you know that the hotel charged me a $50 handling fee to give me the package? Like, that's the most California thing ever, right?
Why didn't you pull the, do you know who I am?
I should have, right? I should have. They didn't care. They don't care. They wouldn't have cared at all.
You can Google me.
I'm curious, though,
Grant
Rocky.
Morrison.
Now that you've
Grant Morrison.
No, that is definitely not who I pretended to be. Well, you know, that's funny.
But the best part is everyone wanted to be part of the Fedora gang.
Well, so you've met this bad idea creator who also is the creator of John Wick, Derek Kolstad. Remember at the Tiki party, Derek Kolstad, and I don't think him and I look anything alike. But people kept coming up to me at the Tiki party asking if I was there. Then I think it became a joke, and once a few people realized I wasn't, but then they were sending people up, whatever. Anyway, Derek was there at New York along with his wife, and we were kind of joking about, you know, people kept mistaking me for him. He had a signing at the Bad Idea booth, and I went to interview a few people in line while they were already lined up before he got there. And I went to interview the first people standing in line, and I started talking to them, and they go, "Well, wait, aren't you signing in a few minutes?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not Derek Kolstad." And then I went down the line, a few more people, and it happened again. They're like, "Well, aren't you signing it?" And it was a woman and her husband. And I'm like, no, I'm not Derek Kolstad. I'm actually his brother. They're like, oh, that's why you look so much like. So I told Derek and his wife that story. Like right after he signed for that husband and wife couple, because I hung around the booth a little bit, I like leaned in and I'm like, that couple, because he hit it off with them. They're super nice. I was like, that couple that you just signed for, they thought I was you. And I told them the reason we look alike is because we're brothers. And he goes, oh, that's what we're going to tell everybody from now on. You're my brother. So yeah, absolutely hilarious, and just such a fun time. But the question I was going to ask you, Rocky, now that you've been to San Diego and you've been to New York Comic Con previously, they have such a different feel. What's your take on like San Diego versus New York? I mean, they're both great in their own ways, but what's your take? Whether it's the convention center, because I think it's so much easier to get around in San Diego. There's not as many choke points. That multi-level of the convention center, New York, which last time you were there, they didn't have the big tower built, which does make things a little easier to get around for panels and what have you. But all those narrow escalators, the escalators are always breaking. It's multi-level instead of just, hey, here's one big floor, here's, you know, second big floor, here's third big floor. It's so much harder to get around. But anyway, what are your thoughts on one convention versus the other?
Well, I have to say they're both were a lot of fun for different reasons. What they both had in common in terms of a lot of fun is the people I was with. When I was in New York, I was with Trevor Lankiewicz, Dark Knight Nation, Rise. He's got a Kickstarter. Check it out. He's collecting all 4 issues of Rise. Shout out to Trevor. Trevor and his friends, I stayed with them. We had just great company. So going with friends that you know, and of course with Steve came down to me to San Diego. So the company first and foremost was what really made the trips. As far as the differences, San Diego, the whole city gets involved in it. It wasn't in New York. It's just within the Javits Center.
Yeah.
And as soon as you left the Javits Center, the con was over, and then you could enjoy New York, which was awesome because it's New York City, and it was my first time. So pretty much everywhere I went, I had a good time. What stands out outside, just a quick story, outside of New York at the New York Comic Con, what I really enjoyed with Trevor, we ended up and his buddies, we ended up at a bar, and there it had a basement where it had a beer pong table, and it just so happened I happened to be. I own my own beer pong table. I happen to be relatively skilled at it, and boy did we kick ass in beer pong. And we even had some I mean, it sounds like I'm making this story up, but I mean, there was literally girls that came down and said, "What's this? What's beer pong? Come play beer pong." And it was literally exactly how it sounded. And we played beer pong, and it was just awesome. And we got hammer drunk. And anyways, that's just one story of many from New York. San Diego, you were Steve obviously can tell his stories, and you know, San Diego's fantastic. It's San Diego. The experience isn't just the con itself. it's the outside of the con. I honestly enjoyed. I have just memorable experiences outside the con in San Diego, being outside the con in the pubs and walking around and talking with people. I thoroughly enjoyed that too. I mean, Steve and I often, Jace, as you recall at San Diego, you were very, very busy running your interviews and keeping up to date on your social media and on your website and stuff. Steve and I were doing our own thing, but also together. But we were very coordinated. We knew where we could meet and outside the con and inside. It worked out pretty well. And I mean, it's just San Diego, and we stayed at a hotel which was far away, but San Diego, all the people in San Diego seem to know about the con, even though not everybody goes. Not everyone in San Diego seems to go to the con. I was always surprised, but I would talk to my taxi drivers, and some of them had never been to the con, and they'd lived in San Diego for 20 years, never been to the San Diego Comic-Con, and they lived in San Diego for 20 years, but they just don't go to San Diego Comic-Con. And yet the whole downtown core is involved in the con, and it's the entire, so it's very interesting that way. And anyways, as a Canadian, I got to say we're treated like gold. There was all the Trump jokes I heard were from Americans. I didn't have to say any. Every American I ran into apologized to me for their country, for their president. I mean, not their country. I love country. I love America. But no, it was a wonderful time. It really was. It was a great time. It was very clearly the highlight of my year in comic books, going to San Diego Comic-Con. And shout out to Trevor and yourself, Jace. You gave a lot of great advice to Steve and I, and in terms of preparing and what have you. And it was just a fantastic time, really a great time. And I don't know, Steve can share his comments too.
Yeah, I mean, really, San Diego was about the people. Like, just, going out, having a good time. I mean, everyone who met me knows San Diego is line after line. I mean, there was a lot of things I was after going down there, exclusives, this and that. And I'd wait in a line and get a ticket to come back and wait in another line. And so that was a big learning curve, because you really have to kind of start thinking to yourself, well, I'm going to lose an hour of my day here just to get a ticket, to lose another hour at another point in your day. So you really had to pick and choose, if you had books you brought down to get signed or this or that. And so anytime that I got outside of the con and was hanging with you guys and going to the pubs, and those are memories that I'll cherish forever.
Do you have on your bucket list to go to New York Comic Con at some point?
Absolutely. And it was funny because even as you're starting your story, I was like, oh, here we go. He's going to have to wait in a line to get his get his pass.
I got it.
Like, even New York's got lines.
Oh, no. So go ahead, Rocky.
A classic line story for Steve. We're at San Diego. He tells me to watch his stuff while he goes to the washroom. About 30 seconds later, I get a text. It goes, even the goddamn shitter's got a line up.
Yeah. Hey, you think there's lines at San Diego? New York is worse. New York. So here's the big difference for me. You're completely right, Rocky, when you talk about San Diego, it takes over the whole city. And New York, you get a block from the Javits Center and you don't even know that it's going on. So it's definitely a different vibe. The other vibe is that, New York is run by Reed Pop. That's a for-profit company. They put on they bought other conventions. They put on New York Comic Con every year. As opposed to San Diego, put on by Comic Con International. That's a non-profit. And they're celebrating the medium of comics. And so New York feels much more commercial to me. And you think there's a lot of exclusives at San Diego. New York, there's 10 times as many. And there's not necessarily as many situations where, like you said, Steve, you go stand in line to get a ticket that lets you then come back and stand in line later. There's not as much of that, but there's just huge lines that if you want an exclusive, but they do tend to go relatively quick. But then Artist Alley is the other difference. So yeah. I mean, if you're going after the exclusives, because Whatnot has a huge booth there, eBay has a booth there, CGC, whatever. All of those have just huge lines, and then there's various retailers that have their retailer exclusives or what have you. So I stood in line a little bit because I wanted all the Bad Idea Save Now exclusives. I don't think I waited any longer than like 10 or 15 minutes though, because the lines do move relatively quickly. But in terms of like getting signings at the DC booth or whatever, yeah, same thing, like giant line. But the other thing about New York is they have the best artist alley in terms of having the most active creators that are currently working in the industry. Like there are so many creators there, just like, you know, one after the other, as opposed to San Diego, where, as you guys know, the artist alley is very cramped or whatever. This one's cramped because there's so many people down there. It's a sea of people. And you will wait, like, if you want a Nick Dragotta autograph or a Scott Snyder autograph or a Dan Moore autograph, yeah, you're going to stand in line for quite a while. Tom King, another one, you're going to stand in line for quite a while. But if you just want to say hi, talk to people, whatever, it's kind of tough to move around. But, you know, like if there's other people, like if you want to meet Fabian Nicieza or Casper Wingard or somebody like that, you know, you can kind of pick and choose. You walk by, they're talking to somebody, come back 5 minutes later, you can walk right up to them and talk to them. So it is the best in terms of just connecting with people, you know, so it's good for me to go connecting with creators and what have you. But yeah, up on that show floor level, oh my God, man, there are just so many people. But also it's, you know, I say it's commercial and there's some more exclusives, but it does feel like more of a shopping show. Like I feel like at San Diego, you can't really find deals. You know, the exhibitors the retailers, you have to pay so much for their booths. Nobody's bringing dollar books. Nobody's bringing $3 books. They're bringing the high dollar stuff to pay, you know. And even the high dollar books, you're paying fair market value, if not more. At New York, it's not like that. At New York, you know, I don't know what the prices are, but there are a lot more comic book retailers. And yeah, there were retailers that had dollar bins or $3 bins or whatever. So I bought some older Ghost Riders and I think a couple older Hulks. And that's one of the things that I've really been working on this year, and I'm so close to completing my Ghost Rider run. So that's a great segue to talk about like big books that we picked up this year. I was trying to rack my brain for like big books that I've picked up this year. I don't really think I've picked up anything that big. I don't really think that I can't think of any big back issue that I picked up this year. But you picked up a big one, Rocky. So you regale us with that. While I try to rack my brain and think of if I picked up anything fantastic this year.
Yeah. This is actually a really wonderful story, and I will make it short. I love your story, Jace, but I promise mine will be a little shorter than yours. A friend of mine, and he wasn't like a close friend, but he's a friend of mine, and that I would often meet in a pub. Back, 15 years ago, I got divorced about 16 years ago, and I was like single for 5 years before I met my beautiful wife, who gifted me with a beautiful daughter. And during that time, I met a guy named Clayton at the local pub, and he always talked about his amazing Spider-Man collection. And I flash forward, to just this year, I get contacted by his wife, Clayton, and Clayton died he died a couple of years ago, and he had this, and she wanted me to come over and look at his collection. And this is exactly what all of us dream of, straight up. You get a call from somebody, and this is somebody who she didn't want to be taken advantage of. She wanted a value of the collection. Well, I know he's got Spider-Man 1 through 100, and he's got doubles of it. Well, that's all, come on. So obviously I go, and he actually had 1 through like 300 of Amazing Spider-Man, he'd have multiple issues. And what he did is that he would buy stuff randomly on eBay, anything with ASM under 100 he'd buy. And he did that over a course of 15 and 20 years. And anyways, I went there, and long story short, I put my own like value on it. And long story short, she's keeping it. We're helping to protect it, preserve it, et cetera, et cetera. As a thank you to me, she had doubles of Amazing Spider-Man 129, and I picked this one up for $500 Canadian.
That's a hell of a
I was
deal.
very frank with her. It's this thing, I think you can't tell online. Before we went, before we videoed and podcasted this or whatever, Steve and I were talking, and Jace were talking with you as well about, I'm not sure what grade this has a blemish on it. This could be anywhere from a 7.5, I think, to an 8.5. I don't pretend to be an expert grader, even though I've been collecting a long time. I don't CGC. I'm not big into CGC, but this was a really big deal for me. And she gave me a deal. She's got 2 of them. This is the one I left the one that was in better condition than this. So this one is, I'm guessing this might be, I thought this maybe would be a 9.2. Steve figures maybe an 8.5 to a 9. So maybe it might, we're not expert graders, so who knows? But it doesn't matter. I'm going to keep it. I got a slew of other things that I have. I had already doubles of, first issue of Peter Parker, Amazing Spider-Man. She had issue 252 of Amazing Spider-Man, first black suit. An old Daredevil, some J. Scott Campbell classic covers, and a whole slew of others. And it was a wonderful tribute to somebody who died, far too young. She was a mother. She's got a daughter. She wants to have that legacy to her family, that Spider-Man collection. And so it was probably one of the most heartfelt moments this past year. And to be able to, I always dream about taking advantage of somebody that doesn't know the value of their collection. But I actually discovered, much to my chagrin, that I'm actually a nice guy. I couldn't do that to her.
Yeah, what's funny
I'm
is
actually nicer than I thought.
Yeah, I have almost a complete run of Amazing Spider-Man from 200 up, so I don't have a 129, of course. But it's funny, of the few that I'm missing above 200, I'm missing I think 5. You have 3 of them right there. I don't have a 252, and I don't have those 2 J. Scott Campbell covers because I refuse to pay a ridiculous price only because it's a J. Scott Campbell cover. I love Jeff. He's a great guy. He's been on the show. I actually saw him at New York Comic Con and we chatted for a while. But I'm not a huge fan of his art style. So why am I going to pay huge premium just because it's so whatever. Anyway, I was racking my brain trying to think of any big books I got this year, and I didn't. Although I am looking harder than I've ever looked before for a book right now to complete a run. The Volume 2 Ghost Rider, that's the 1973 Ghost Rider series that went 81 issues starring Johnny Blaze. It went 81 issues, 82 issues, something like that. I'm only missing issue 17, issue 10, and issue 1. And I've been looking every day, multiple times a day on eBay, and I've talked to retailers I know and told everybody to keep an eye out. I don't want a graded copy, and I've let people know kind of what my budget is. But what's really annoying is there's this rumor going around that he's going to show up in Avengers Doomsday. I don't think he will, but the rumor's going around enough to where there's spec going on, and the book has been climbing. I looked at, even 2 months ago, on decent copies on eBay, like maybe I would consider it like a starter copy, a copy that I would be happy to have, to fill in that spot in the run, and then maybe upgrade to a better copy later, for like under 200. I'd be like, I would definitely pay under 200 for that copy, but I wasn't looking at the time; it already sold. So now everything on there is like 350 or higher. Anything below is like there's one that presents beautifully, right? Like right now, there's pictures. It's 250, and I was about to pull the trigger on it, and I looked a little closer at the photos, and then because that's the thing, I hate buying books where I can't see it and hold it in my hand because you never really know the condition, right? So I messaged the guy and I'm like, can you give me some more pictures of that top staple around that area because it looks like there's damage there or whatever? And he gets back to me and he's like, oh yeah, the top staple's detached. I'm like that. I don't care if it has like creases, blunted corners, whatever. I want it to be complete, and I don't want a detached cut. I want the cover half detached because there's another one on there for $350 that looks really nice as well. But he says there's a picture of the top staple being detached in the listing, and I just don't want that. So, anyway, what about you, Steve? Any big books that you picked up this year?
Amazing Spider-Man 300 I picked up, graded at a 9.0. And it brings me back to that, I'm not a big graded book guy. I like to have them raw. Like maybe once in a while I will open it up and flip through it and just marvel at the art that's in the book. And but probably the highlight for me, flipping through some books is up in Edmonton. I go into a store, an old store. When you walk, you can hear the ground kind of creak underneath you. It was one of those old dungeon-y type stores with just wall to wall of just all those books.
And the smell of comic books.
That's where I'm going.
Newsprint.
So we walk in, and my son looks at me and says, "Dad, isn't that just the greatest smell in the world?" And I was like, "Is that son? Am I doing something right here?" And It's just like, son, it truly is the greatest smell in the world. Like I love it. And the fact that I got to share that moment with my son was probably the highlight of any issue that I did buy this year.
Right on.
But the Amazing Spider-Man 300 graded 9.0, and the fact that I think he was asking $650, and I was like, oh, come on, like, and I think he saw how much my son appreciated the books and this, and I ended up talking him down to $500.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of, and even then I was still like, I didn't want to, but I just felt like caught up in the moment that I was sharing with my son. And it's funny now because, talking and working my way down with the price, we've been into other stores, and for some reason my son loves cards. So anytime you go and there's back issues, and there's that collector card that's sealed in a poly bag, those are the books my son loves, right? And so he'll flip and flip and flip and flip, and he finds something. It'll come out of a $3 bin because, dollar bins are hard to come by up here in Canada. And my son will go to the counter and say, "You take two for this?" He's haggling a $3 book.
That's awesome.
And I'm just like, that's my boy, right? So, so those are the moments that I've cherished the most. But the Amazing Spider-Man 300 graded was probably my big book that I picked up this year.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple of books that I've really noticed. I've been paying a little more attention this year to the secondary market. I mean, our channel, as you know, Rocky, is more about reviews and what have you, and talking to creators, interviews, what have you. There's such a huge community of that handle the collectible side, and I would say there's more people that cover that stuff. Guys like Bronzeville Comics and Mint Hunter and Swaggle Haas and all those guys. Lunch Money Comics is another one. And Comic Tom may be one of the biggest ones. And I watch those Comic Tom top 10 videos that come out a couple times a week. And yeah, when you want to talk about books that have held their value, even though, with inflation, at least in this country, there's been less discretionary spending. I'm hearing rumblings within the comic book industry that the invites from these convention companies are getting scarce. They're not inviting as many people, as many creators. They're not paying for as much. And so it's going to be slim pickings. I heard that a lot of the convention companies that are for profit this year just barely broke even on a lot of shows and even lost money on some shows. So it's going to be a tough year coming up, I think, in 2026. But that being said, a lot of these comics, Bronze Age, especially if you can afford it, it's a good time to buy right now because the prices are down, except for a few books. And the few books we're talking about, Ghost Rider 1 is up, Amazing Spider-Man 300, Secret Wars number 8, Amazing Spider-Man number 129. Like, it's these Amazing Spider-Man 252. It's like the keys, if you will, that are still maintaining the value. And the other books that are blowing up are Absolute Batman books. Absolute Batman is a juggernaut.
Insane.
A juggernaut. And we'll talk about that next, actually. We'll talk about Absolute. We talked a little bit about it on the podcast the other day, but get your guys' perspective. But one other book that I'll mention, you want to talk about big boy books, the biggest book that I ever bought is one of the hottest books of this year as well. That's kept its value and it keeps going up, actually. And that's Invincible number 1. It had its latest season come out on Amazon Prime, and that continues to be a hot book that continues to rise in price and in number of sales. And I bought it in May of 2022, right before prices started. I waited till the peak, if you will. It just happened to be, again, I don't like graded books. My local comic shop, my local retailer had one come in, and he let me, basically pay in installments. He kept the book until I paid it off, but it wasn't graded, and it was in really high grade, but it wasn't graded, so that's what made it kind of. And I don't like graded books, so it was just the right time. So I bought it for $1,300, and then within 3 or 4 months, it was probably a $900 book. It probably lost almost a third of its value just because everything came down. But now it's back up to where I could get what and I knew it would. But it's also like,
if you get it graded, isn't it like 4,000 or 5,000 now? It's graded.
It's not, but it's not a 9.8. It's probably like a 9.2. I'd say maybe a 9.4. maybe. I haven't looked at it that close, and I haven't looked at it in a while. But yeah, far and
Something
away.
is
I mean, it's the
killing
only
the
time.
children's going up too.
Yeah, it's the only time. It's the only time I've ever spent over $1,000 on a comic. And the way I paid it, so I was paying like $200 a month for a while, and then I paid it off when I got the Bad Idea Fan Cup. Part of winning the Bad Idea Fan Cup was you got $1,000 gift certificate at your local comic shop. So I used that to pay off the balance that I still owed. So anyway, but yeah, let's talk some absolute. We were talking about this the other day, Rocky. Like Absolute Batman 9.8 selling for $400.
Insane.
It's absolutely crazy. This book was the highest selling book of 2025. So I would think there'd be enough copies out there to meet demand. Apparently, that's not the case. And this is like a regular cover. It's not like a 1 in 25 variant or whatever. And then even that annual that Daniel Warren Johnson came out with, and I get there was a little controversy with the white supremacy overtones and what have you, the villains of the book, and that book's blowing up and going for like, and you know, you look at these apps, Key Collector, Cover Price, or whatever, and you look at their top 20 most in-demand books, and the majority of them are Absolute Batman. Like over half of them are Absolute Batman. Like it has captured the zeitgeist of the comic book industry. It's pulling in new readers, so that's great.
Yeah.
But I go back to what I've said about this before and why I think the Absolute line is doing so well. It's because you're getting a chance to reach people who have been interested in getting into comics, who felt that they couldn't solve the problem of, I haven't been reading comics for a long time and I don't know what's going on. I don't know where to start. Even if it's a new number one, it still deals with the continuity of the universe and things that have come before or whatever. And so not dissimilar from what the New 52 was. But even that, they were interconnected or whatever. But like being able to say, okay, if I'm a Batman fan, or I like the Batman movies or the Gotham TV show or whatever, I can jump onto Absolute Batman and all I need to read is Absolute Batman. I don't need to read anything else in the Absolute line. I can just read Absolute Batman and I haven't missed anything. I'm in on the ground floor. And I think that's part of why it's attracting people. Obviously, some people love the art that Nick Dragotta's doing. Some people love the over-the-top Bane and Joker stuff that Scott Snyder's doing. There are a few people that don't like it. I won't say I wasn't aware. I mean, obviously, I know not everything is for everybody. But just this last week, I saw some people talking about how awful they think it is. I don't think it's awful. I think technically it's a very good book in terms of pacing and a lot of the things that it's trying to do. I have my problems with, specific story points or whatever, but that's all personal. That's my dislike of the Joker or whatever. But in terms of it being exciting, it being fun, and having great moments, punting a kid, dropping a building on Bane's head. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Well, I would say, friction is something that impedes a customer's journey. And friction is something that, if there's too much continuity, if there's too much noise, if a comic book is perceived as being inaccessible, I mean, God forbid there's a person out there who loves watching a Spider-Man movie, pick whichever one you like, and then goes into a comic book shop and says, I want to start reading Spider-Man. Good luck with that one. Where are you going to start? It's a gong show. You don't know where to start. There's too much noise. There's too much continuity. With Absolute Batman, there's a number of factors that come into play in my view. Number one, it's absolutely easily accessible. You need to know nothing. You don't even need to know anything about Batman. If you've never heard of Batman in your life, you're going to love Absolute Batman. You want to walk into a Batman, start reading Absolute Batman. It's fantastic. The art's fantastic. It's sexy. It's stylistic. It's easy to follow. And not only that, if you start collecting Absolute Batman, if you've never collected a comic book in your life, if you've never been in a comic shop in your life, you will immediately, within 2 months, understand the comic book industry because you're introduced to variant covers, which are awesome, and you're introduced to the secondary market, which is awesome for Absolute Batman in particular. This month was the first time that I can remember, and I'm not the first one to recall this, Comic Tom 101. Lots of people on YouTube have talked about the secondary market, top 20 titles on the secondary market, all DC titles. First time I've ever seen that ever. That's huge. Most of those are Absolute titles, along with Tom King's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, miscellaneous DC titles. They've captured something. I also think the economy has something to do with it. When money is tight, people when people make when people are purchasing stuff when money is tight during hard economic times, and right now things are not every grocery bills are higher, everything's higher. People, when you're losing control financially and and the dollars are tight, what do you do if you have a hobby? Well, you're going to collect what you love. You're going to collect what you know. Well, oh, there's Batman here. It's Absolute Batman. There's very expensive Batman titles, Absolute Batman titles up there. You can spend $50 on a variant cover. Or, guess what? DC is wisely multiple printing. What is Absolute Batman #1 at? What is it? The ninth printing? 10th printing? You can pick it up for $4.99. And don't tell me there isn't fathers that, like Steve, can take a son into a comic shop and say, hey, I want to get Absolute Batman #1. Well, fortunately, there's the 10th printing on the shelf. So DC is wisely, the way they're approaching it is better too. And also the storytelling. It's soap opera. Every single issue ends on a cliffhanger. And I mean every single issue of Absolute Batman, without exception, ends on a cliffhanger. Maybe the annual doesn't, but hey, come on. Anyways, it's easy to get into. There's only 10 issues, I think, what are we at? Like 13, 14, 15 issues so far?
15 was the Joker issue.
And when issue 15 sells 300,000 copies and is competing with issue 1, they've captured onto something. And we could speculate, and we'll talk more about it, I'm sure, as we go along. But they've captured something there. How they've done it, I don't know. But what I do know is bloody well, this isn't broken, DC. So please don't try to fix it. Just keep doing what you're doing. Don't try to fix anything. Leave it alone. Don't do any mergers. Don't do any crossovers. Don't try to do anything fancy. It works. Don't mess with it. Just go with it. And Snyder's instincts seem to be working well for the Absolute Universe. Go with it. And as much as all of us could, Jace, I know you and we can disagree respectfully on the quality of the respective Absolute titles, and Steve has his opinions on that too. But the bottom line is the whole line is doing well. The whole line is doing well. And that seems to shock some of us and shock some. Hey, again, from a business standpoint, from somebody who wants comic books to grow, I don't need to understand it in order to say, hey, I don't need to understand it. I don't even need to like all the titles, but it's working. Keep it up.
Yeah. What's your thought on it, Steve?
Well, I think it's wonderful. I mean, I walk into my comic shop and now I find myself helping individuals, purchase these books. Like, what do you recommend? And it's nice when you can, there's a great title out there and you can go back to the shelf because there's 5, 6 printings of, issue #1. It's accessible, right? They can easily grab it. It's easily to jump into it. Like Rocky said, you don't need to know the mythos or this or that. It's a hit it on the ground and just start reading and enjoy. The Absolute Universe is wonderful. The only thing that I'm starting to see is people are starting to clue in that it's worth something. And this it kind of bothers me a little bit because last time I was on an online auction and this comic book store owner slapped down about 50 issues of Absolute Batman 15. Starting price $25 a book. That's Canadian. And it flew. People were like, I'll take one. I'll take one. I'll take one. And I'm like, you guys just need to go into your comic book stores and start a pull list. Start a file. And I'm starting to see that more, even at my local shop, is people are starting to realize hey, you mean there's other covers? There's other art? There's other, yeah, just talk to your local shops. They will get you this stuff. You do not have to pay some of these outrageous prices that we're seeing. Just talk to your shops. They would be glad to have you start a file. It makes things easier for them, right? If they can keep stuff on their shelf just a little bit longer, right? And not have day one and have their whole shelf destroyed, and have people starting a pull list. All in all, the Absolute Universe has just been just the joy to be a part of, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love that it's doing well. I love that it's keeping the lights on. Hopefully nothing goes completely sideways. It sounds like we're a few years away from any official Netflix Warner Brothers merger, and hopefully they won't mess with stuff. I'm sure they will, the corporate overlords. But that's not a topic.
Well, and that's where I really hope the money. Just all those creators, you're doing a wonderful job. I enjoy it, and just let's.
But I mean, when you talk about,
let's enjoy the journey, right? I see the mountain. I can see the top of the mountain, but let me get there one step at a time.
Yeah, comics will never.
Let's not rush to the top.
Yeah, they'll never sell enough to the point where these billion-dollar companies are, going to say, hey, it's a rounding. The amount of money that the budget for DC and the amount of money, the revenue DC generates yearly is a rounding error for Netflix. That's just the reality of it. So, anyway, I do wish that the mainline got a little bit more attention. Now, don't get me wrong, I love how well the Absolute stuff is doing. I'd love that it's bringing in new readers because that's what this industry really needs. And then hopefully people will branch out. Maybe the economy improves or whatever. People try indie titles. People try other DC titles.
Yeah.
DC is aware of this as well. That's what Next Level is supposed to be, bringing the newness, bringing the great, easily accessible jumping on points to some other characters in the main universe. I mean, Joshua Williamson and Scott Snyder have said that very thing. So hopefully with Next Level, we get some of that fantastic energy that the Absolute Universe has coming over into the main universe title. What's interesting is part of what this is, it's a generational thing of people just in the digital world where everything's accessible. Okay, if I want to binge a show, I'll go back and if I haven't seen it, I'm not going to start on season 3, I'll go back to season 1 or 2. When we were kids, you couldn't do that. Like if you wanted, let's say you wanted to start watching Knight Rider, you just had to watch the latest episode that came on Friday night. You didn't have the option to go back and watch it from the beginning if you didn't see it at that time. And it was the same thing with comics, Rocky and Steve. When we started reading comics, if you wanted to be a comic reader, if you wanted to read Spider-Man, you couldn't go back and you could if you had a ton of money, but we were kids. We couldn't go track down Amazing Fantasy 15 and then Spider-Man 1, 2 and read it all in order. You bought the latest issue off the rack, and even if it was in the middle of an arc and there was other storylines, you just dove in and you kind of, caught up and as you read each subsequent issue, you kind of, the old stories would end and new, plot A, plot B, plot C would start, and eventually you knew everything that was going on. But you didn't have the option. Now with the internet, you can go to Wikipedia and you can read about stuff, you can read about arcs, you can read about all sorts of stuff, and people have this, I want it all. I want to have the whole story or whatever. And even though they can do that with digital comics, you can go and read Batman from the very beginning, read all the Golden Age stuff if you want. You can get it all digitally. But people don't want to invest the time. So it's kind of interesting. But I wanted to read, before we move on from this, I wanted to, we got a press release from DC the other day because the solicits for March came out. Wonder War is coming. I chatted with Tom King for one of the Fireside Chats. He talked a little bit about Wonder War and what's to expect. Awesome. I'm not going to spoil the chat here.
Because I wonder what's going on.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, really interesting what he had to say. And I'll tease it this way. He compares the Wonder War to a classic story arc from a rival publisher. You can probably guess what publisher it is, but you may not be able to figure out what the story arc might be. So anyway, that's coming. We're told there's a new version of the Joker coming in Batman 7 in March from Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez. The legendary Dennis Cowan is going to be the new ongoing artist for Nightwing. So that's coming.
Interesting.
The next arc in Detective Comics after this current, Courage, Lion, Fear thing that Tom King's doing is going to be...
that Tom Taylor's doing.
Tom Taylor's doing. I always do that. It's going to be Batman, and Pete Woods, who was the Titans artist, is going to do the art on this arc. It's Batman teaming up with Black Canary and who's being described as Gotham's newest resident, Green Arrow. So Green Arrow,
hey,
Black Canary, and Batman
Nice.
In the next,
So he makes it
That
to
interests
30.
me.
Yeah. So Green Arrow makes it to 30 issues, and then I mean, I was pretty bummed that it was over, and then
yeah.
so this is good news. I'm hearing it for the first time right here.
Yeah, and Christopher Condon, we talked about the end of Green Arrow. He was another Fireside Chat. And Tim Seeley's another Fireside Chat. You'll want to check that one out, Steve, as well. We talked a lot of Masters of the Universe.
Hey, he's got an ongoing coming.
But one thing that's interesting in these solicits, it talks about that new version of the Joker and Batman having to go up against an increasingly hostile Gotham City Police Department and deal with Gotham's newest mayor. Have you heard this, Rocky? You know who's Gotham's newest mayor?
I don't know who the newest mayor is. You're not talking about Vandal Savage, obviously.
No, Vandal Savage is continuing to be the police commissioner, but the
Right.
new mayor in Gotham City coming March is one Pamela Isley.
Really?
Yes, Poison Ivy
That's
is going to be the
Very
mayor
interesting.
of Gotham.
You know what? That I actually like that idea, only because J. Willow Wilson's done such a good job on Poison Ivy. If anyone could make that believable to me, it's J. Willow Wilson. I hope that's going to be Poison Ivy's not canceled, is it? That's going to
No.
still continue that title.
Pamela Isley ascends as Gotham City's new mayor in Poison Ivy, issue 42, from G. Willow Wilson and Marcia Takara.
That's awesome.
But the fact that she's the mayor is also going to play into the detective run. The Batman run that Matt Fraction.
Batman run.
Yeah.
Wow. I like
Kyle,
that. I really like that idea.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, Selena Kyle is coming back to Gotham as well, finally. Still torn Grumback, but we'll see if that makes it click a little more for us.
Yeah.
We've got Cassandra Cain getting new powers, inheriting cursed powers in Batman 17. Harley Quinn her personality is splitting in two in Harley Quinn 60. See how that plays out. And then
Again,
big news coming in March in the Superman title. So they're trying not to spoil the end of DCKO. But apparently with what happens to DCKO is the way they put it is the DC Universe is in need of a new Superman after the events of DCKO. So that kicks off the reign of the Superboys across DC's 4 ongoing Superman-related titles. So in Action Comics, we have a young Clark Kent who his past collides with today's Justice League Unlimited. So it says the clash across time bridges Superman's earliest days with the present, while Martian Manhunter, Mary Marvel, and more search for the missing man of tomorrow. So where is Superman? This is telling me he wins, he gets the Omega power, he uses it to restore the universe as it should be, but then perhaps disappears, and they're searching for him. We've got Supergirl going to the bottled city of Kandor, where there's a red sun, so she loses her powers, and she's fighting with a cybernetic upgrade. She gets some kind of cybernetic upgrade because she doesn't have superpowers. And she's fighting alongside Connor Kent and a legion of Boy Thunder clones. So Boy Thunder from the World's Finest is going to be fighting as well. And what do these clones mean for the future of the House of L? Only time will tell. And then we've got Superman Unlimited with John Kent facing off against a new foe introduced by Dan Slott named the Tomorrow Man, who is a brand new character whose arrival shakes the timeline itself, it says. And then finally, the ongoing month of DC's new Superman saga concludes with Superman 36 by Joshua Williamson. Dan Moore is coming back on the book as Superboy Prime steps into the spotlight of the ongoing series. He claims the mantle of Superman. So he's the one that's taking Kal-El's place, as Kal-El is missing. And it's an action-packed story that redefines the legacy of Metropolis. So, spotlighting fan-favorite characters, Reign of the Superboy invites fans to follow the saga across all 4 titles. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm a pretty big fan of all the Superboys. There's not a pink-haired person reference or insight, so I don't have to worry about that. We've got Green Lantern 600 coming in. So big anniversary issue coming in March. Jeremy Adams, Ron Mars, Harmonico, Daryl Banks. We got Hal Jordan being tested, it says, and Kyle Rayner returning to Earth. And then over in Green Lantern Corps 14, It says Morgan Hampton and Fernando Passerin make Guy Gardner the All-Sight as he assembles a team to track vanished emotional entities. So that's interesting. What does the All-Sight mean? We knew those emotional entities weren't gone, so clearly they're coming back. And then, starting with issue 15, Aquaman, the Aquaman title from Jeremy Adams is being renamed. It's going to be Emperor Aquaman.
Emperor. So he's not king. He's an emperor now.
Emperor, and he's on a conquest across the stars, wielding Omega energy against the Crimson Queen. So this goes back to what I was saying about am I wrong? Win? Is Aquaman going to win?
I think, man, right now Aquaman is the title that is seriously. I picked that up. I go home. It's opened up like Aquaman, and I've never have ever been on board with an Aquaman series, but this series has got something. The way they're leveling him up. I honestly think he something might happen. I don't know.
Yeah,
he could win. He could have the Omega energy.
Aquaman has become he's now in the top 3 of my favorite DC characters. He's amazing, and yeah.
Hey, make Atlantis great again.
Well, the hats even more.
Yeah, so make Atlantis great again.
All right, let's finish up these solicits.
And then instead of red, it'll be blue.
It'll be blue, yeah.
Hey, the power of the blue.
100%. We know the new creative team on Flash, starting with issue 31. So I guess, unfortunately, Mark Waid and Christopher Cantwell just did the KO arc. We have Ryan North coming on with Gavin Goudry handling the art. Which I haven't read a lot of Ryan North stuff. I mean, he's gotten critical acclaim for his Fantastic Four run. I read the first couple issues. I didn't really feel like it was for me, so I kind of moved on. So we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. And then, yeah, we have DC Next Level books coming soon as well. So, yeah, it seems like exciting times for DC. Hopefully Marvel can get their act together and start putting out some good titles as well.
Well, I have to say my initial thoughts, because I'm hearing most of that for the first time, because I haven't, it's funny, I might read a couple, I might read a month ahead in our preview copies that we get, but the solicitations are always like 4 or 5 or 6 months ahead. So, but I actually feel, based upon just the general information you've given, that DC sounds like maybe they've been inspired. That actually sounds like they're going a little bit farther, that they're rocking the boat a little bit, and maybe they're inspired by the absolute titles, because I feel the absolute titles have taken more chances. Because they're out of continuity titles and they're new and they're fresh. The absolute creators are doing they feel a little bit more unbridled and to do whatever they want. And it's nice to hear that for mainstream titles, they're thinking outside the box a little bit and they're pushing the envelope. Because that's what they need to do. Because I'll be very blunt, and I just, spoiler alert, and I'll be saying this more when I do my recap for 2025. I'm collecting. I think it was 15 fewer DC titles this year, mainstream. I'm all in on the absolute. I haven't really been too big. Just because we review every DC title doesn't mean I physically buy a copy of it. There's too much. Honestly, there's too much competition, and DC, for the most part, it's not that they're not good. It's that they're not good in comparison to what else is out there. And my dollar only goes so far. I'm on a budget, and that's as simple as that. I got a family to raise. I got other things going on, and I just can't afford to buy every DC title as much as I'd like. And the truth of the matter is that, and this goes into another thing that we might talk about later. I personally feel that the absolute titles should be nurtured and growing, and I'm glad that DC is maybe taking a second look at their mainstream line and going, hey, maybe we should look at taking a little bit more chances, and let's take more risks on our mainstream titles, and maybe get corporate to let us try different things and take risks and not be so safe in our storytelling. Because frankly, it's getting a little bit. Dare I say, it's getting a little bit was getting a little bit tropey and boring there for a while. And I like what I'm hearing in the solicitations that you said. So fingers are crossed for 2026.
Even with an unlimited budget, I wouldn't be buying every DC title, and it's not a matter of the cost for me, although it's a consideration. I just don't have any space. I have to be so selective with what I buy right now, and I am in the middle of, I've got all my collections now arranged chronologically in terms of year. Now I've got to go back and arrange it by month. Yeah. And then after I do that and I get everything cataloged, then I'm going to start selling off, which I swore I'd never sell books again. But I'm going to sell off stuff that I just have duplicates of, or that I just have no interest in having. And that might free up some space where I can get some more books physically. So, well, I want to talk about Marvel and DC crossovers, because we had 2 this year already, and we have a big one coming next year. But Steve has some blind bags that he wants to open as well. So I think it's a good time for us to actually say we're gonna call it for part 1. So come back tomorrow on Christmas Day, or later if you want, but the episode will be released on Christmas Day. And it'll be Steve opening his presents from under the DC tree with his blind bags. We'll kick it off with that. Then we'll talk a little bit about the DC Marvel crossovers and our feelings about those. We'll talk a little bit about variant covers, and who knows, whatever else comes to mind as we finish up this wonderful celebration of Christmas comic Fireside Chat. So come back in tomorrow, everybody. We appreciate you joining. Don't forget that every week, if you want to check out the DC books, they're on Rocky's channel when we do the Spotlight, Comic Space Boom, ! Or you can listen to audio only on the Comic Source podcast feeds, wherever you get your podcast. And then all the other Comic Source content is on the same channel that you're probably listening or watching this on, over at on YouTube, the Comic Source channel. So like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. And if you don't come back for the next episode, we'll take this opportunity to wish everybody a safe and happy holiday and wonderful, prosperous New Year. Hope you guys all have a great Christmas. Thanks. Well, we hope you come back because we got more to this wonderful Fireside Chat episode that's becoming one of my favorite annual traditions for us, with no particular agenda other than a couple of talking points that we kind of decide we want to talk about, and then we just let it go. So, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and we'll be back with part 2 tomorrow. Any final thoughts for this part 1, guys?
I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and thank everyone for tuning in and to our Comic Boom and Comic Source collaboration every week with DC, the DC reviews that we do. And I want to give a shout out to all the people that listen to us rant and rave, and it's a great time. And I want to give a personal thanks to you, Jace, and to Steve. Honestly, you guys made this year probably one of my favorite comic book years. Often. If it wasn't for you guys like you, I would literally be an old man yelling at clouds. That's I know it's a cliche. So many of us are old men yelling at clouds. But when it comes to comic books, I do tend to rant and rave. And one of the things that I really do appreciate is it's amazing how when you have somebody to collaborate like yourself, Chase, or to bounce ideas and talk with Steve, sometimes I have to hear from somebody else that maybe my views are a little bit off or a little bit off kilter. And sometimes it's nice to have a sober second thought.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, it's the same thing as Merry Christmas to all your listeners, and thank to you two for inviting me onto the show. I've really enjoyed it, and this year, mental health wise, has been difficult. But I'm in a few group chats, and one of the things I love is talking comic books. And it's helped me grow, and I hope other individuals can find like-minded individuals like themselves and have wonderful discussions, like the absolute universe and things that might be around the corner, things that might not be around the corner, things that I love the iteration of the Joker, or I didn't like the iteration of the Joker, but it's getting people talking again, and it's things like this that I really appreciate. And Merry Christmas to everyone, and once again, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so again, we'll be back with part 2 tomorrow, everybody, and I'm sure Steve will get a chance to gloat about his perhaps insurmountable lead in our DCKO bracket. So we'll
can
give
do that.
updated standings tomorrow as well, everybody. So yeah, join us then, and we'll continue this conversation.